Time for another Coffee with Kilroy, or what I like to call beverage in a book. My beverage, well, you guessed it, coffee. Dan from No Enemies Here thinks I drink a little bit too much. And the book, well, you might have guessed that one as well. It's another Wargame book from Mike Lambo. I've covered a few of these. In fact, so many that Wayne Hansen, check out his channel, thinks that that's all I cover. Hey, Wayne, I cover a couple more things. You need to watch my channel. Anyway, the latest from Mike Lambo is Assault on Vimy Ridge, a solitaire war game. This time, Mr. Lambo has gone to World War I, his first time. And if you haven't seen the other ones, I'll post kind of a link down below that talks about some overall coverage of Wargame books, but more specifically from Mr. Lambo, he's got Battles of the English Civil War, Hostage Rescue Squad, Battles of Medieval Britain, Ghost of the Jungle, Beaches for the Brave, The Race to Bastogne, and Battles of Normandy, and Fields of Normandy. So Mr. Lambo has quite a few games in this space. And again, I'll put a video down below that kind of gives an overview of this space and how it's developed over the years, but more specifically how it's developed recently. It's kind of exploded. So grab a cup of whatever you're drinking, or a bottle or a glass, whatever you decide to drink with. And let's do a quick page through some of this here. The back of the book here is the Battle of Vimy Ridge, April 9th to April 12th, 1917, was part of the Battle of the Arras in the northeastern France and took place during World War I. It was the first time that the four divisions of the Canadian Corps fought together as one, and is arguably Canada's most celebrated military victory. So this is for all my friends to the north. I guess that includes you, Dan. This is going to be similar to his other books where there is kind of a built-in AI. These are solitaire only. And so you have a page of what are the AI, what are the commands that you'll do, and what the opponent will do, or the built-in opponent or bot will do, and then there'll be a map which you move around on. The original games were designed to mark up, and you can do markings on that and erase. I'm not a huge fan of that, and so I would either make copies, or you can put plexiglass over it or something over the page to make sure it's not, messed up over time, and then you can reuse it. Some people have gone so far as to make up their own counters, or use miniatures or cubes or what have you, and use that on the board as well. So there's a lot of different ways to play these games, and have been very well received. Let's get into it and see what we have here. And another thing too is they're more. Mr. Lambo has added more color over time, so that's another reason why you probably don't want to mark these up, because with the ink and everything on there, a lot of erasing I think could probably turn to wear these down. Of course, that would mean that you would have to buy a new one, and I don't think Mr. Lambo would complain about that. There's a list of all the books he has. I think I have all of them. Kind of a completist in that regard. And I might just do a whole review of just his game at some time. Maybe do a deep dive on just what his offerings and talk about some of the differences. Because there are some differences. There's kind of a core concept to them, a core mechanic, but he changes that up in each of the different games. And some of them are hex. Some of them are... there's one that's a little bit more of a, not really say point to point, but kind of a line. I mean, he's done different things. Grids. He's always looking at new ways to expand this space. You have your introduction to the rules, main rules, and then you have your campaigns. It looks like we have looks like there's different campaigns. There's campaign A has 3 missions, campaign B has 3 missions, campaign C has 3 missions, and campaign D has 3 missions. So you have quite a few missions here, and then have suggested counters. Again, a lot of people make their own counters and then use those on the board. It's a war game, right? Here's the introduction, talking about this book, how the book works. Again, that's really kind of talking in general about that system at a high level. Introductory rules, you've got your terrain, you've got your different units. And this looks like this might be a smaller level team. So this might be what I like to call small unit tactical, which includes like platoon, squad, and individual level units. So this falls into my small unit tactical. You've got your facing and line of sight, tack, to pin, to hit. So there's kind of a pinning rule here. That's a little bit different than I think than some of his other games. This explains how setup works. And here's your main rules, including the turn process. And here's like the orders, and there's always going to be like your orders and then the orders that the AI will undertake. And the orders are what you're doing on the board, you know, like move, rally, smoke, mortar, attack. And as you can see here, there's quite a few rules. This isn't your typical, you know, choose your own adventure type book. This is a war game in a book. So it's got all the rules you would have for a war game, and in this case, a small unit tactical World War I game. And then you'll get into, you know, the board itself is a page of the book. So you've got some illustrations, you've got some examples here. So this is all nice to show you how to play out the game. Then you get into the German side of things. You'll be, I believe you're playing the Canadians, the Canucks. And then you get to the phase 3 of the German's turn is the event. So then you got the campaign in between the missions. So you can string this together as a campaign and keep track of your missions and maybe add units to whatever you lost. So that's something that's new to his games is this ongoing campaign. That actually brings a little bit of a RPG or role-playing game type feel to this, that if you have an ongoing campaign. A lot of games are doing that now. Not a lot, but more companies are doing that now, I should say. The upcoming release of Heroes of the Bitter Harvest from Lock and Load, which is a small unit tactical game, squad level game. They have a campaign feature now where you can roll a leader, and then that leader can advance throughout different campaigns. So you actually have a counter on the board. So doing something similar here where you're developing a campaign over time or adding units to your squad or to your forces over time. And then we get right into the mission. So this is Campaign A, Mission 1. And this is the 3rd Division Initial Assault. So you're going to have everything you need to play the game is on this side as far as tables and charts and orders and what progression, and then this is the actual board. So you have, which is, you know, they're becoming more and more elaborate. If you look at one of his first ones here, I think this is his first one. That's what they look, you know, more like a old-fashioned war game board, right? A little hex board there. This one, a lot more elaborate, a lot more color and detail for the different types of terrain. And then you have trenches, I would imagine there, and bunkers or pillboxes or structures there. So a lot more involved. And this is, of course, on a grid format here. So you'll have your units, you'll have setup, and then you've got, you know, rules on artillery, and then your orders, and then the German orders and attacks. And which you have to supply your own dice in this game, of course, because it doesn't come in the book. I'm sure you can find a die or dice somewhere in your collection, somewhere. So this is all the Germans' orders and attacks. Then you have the German events that come at the end, and then this is all the attack dice modifiers for this scenario. And pinning units is looks like it's a interesting concept here. You pin them down, which is very much a common element in small unit tactical type games. Is pinning units. And basically, it's a situation where they can't return fire. They're hunkered down, or they're, trying to get into a defensive position because they're taking too much fire or too much whatever, and just not in a cohesive enough to return the attack. And so you've got them pinned down. That's typically a concept, and some of the games focus on that more than some of the other elements. A lot of games focus on morale. As a way to determine whether someone can attack or whether they're capable of, executing orders or moving or what have you. Others focus more on the pinning of it, trying to keep them pinned down so they can't return fire. There's a lot of different ways of small unit tactical games handle that situation, or focus on elements of tactical combat. And so each scenario is going to be this way. You have all this for each scenario, which is all the, again, all the necessary stuff. Hey, need a sip of my coffee here. All the necessary stuff you need to play the game, and then you'll play out the game over here. And then again, some people make their own counters, or they'll use minis or cubes or whatever, coins, whatever they have at hand to move on this board, as opposed to writing on this board or marking on this board. And I usually make a copy, or I've a few of these games I've just sat down and I've grabbed some counters from maybe other games or some blank stuff, and I just use that to mark what I have. I've got quite a few games and quite a few excess components that I could make do with that. So you're going to have each of the missions is going to be just more of this, right? But more meaning that it's the same kind of setup with the rules and the orders and then the game map, but they're all different. They'll be a little bit different, especially the German orders and attacks are probably going to be somewhat different. The setup will be somewhat different because you're doing a different situation, and of course the map is different from scenario to scenario. So that's what you get here. This has got some new stuff here. Looks like you got a town. Some interesting, different graphics than what I've seen in some of the other games. And that's what you get in here. There's a pretty extensive trench network there. So there you have it. Quite a lot of variety in here. Leave it to Lambo to keep developing this series or system of games. I like the fact that he's going to different periods. Had quite a bit of World War I, especially a few on Normandy itself. But this is World War II, I should say. And now he's going to World War I. And he's done Battles of the English Civil War. He's done modern with Ghost in the Jungle, which is Vietnam. And Hostage Rescue is very modern, so really developing this whole series. And then, of course, you get, these are the suggested counters that you can make for the game if you wanted to be so inclined or industrious. You can make these counters up and then use these on the board. So that's what you get in a book of Assault on Vimy Ridge, a solitaire war game from Mike Lambo. This series is still going strong. I think a lot of people like it. A lot of people like this whole genre of kind of portable solitaire war games. Again, I've got a link down below kind of talking about several of them. And there was a live show a while back with Art of Wolf's Lair and Dan from No Enemies Here that's all we, and I was on that, that's all we talked about was these kind of games. So I'll put a link to that as well. Anyway, love to know your thoughts on this. Are you excited to see this still going? Are you excited to see this going to different wars and different theaters? And are you excited to see how he keeps developing it a little bit more? Or are you done with it? Are you kind of like, this is played out? You rather play a board game? You rather have, if you're going to make counters for a book game, why not pull out a board game and push those counters around? Yeah, love to hear your thoughts on that. To me, there's no right or wrong answer. There's only, your perspective and your opinion, and everybody's entitled to that. So, love to hear your thoughts. Love to see a dialogue on that. So, anyway, this is for you, Wayne, another war game book, and I might have another one coming up. Spoiler alert, that we might need to talk about. And this is for you, Dan. Hey, we got the Canadians in here, and for all my Canadian viewers and subscribers, thank you very much for watching. Thank all of you for watching, not just my friends to the north, but this is for you too. We got the assault on Vimy Ridge. So anyway, that's what I have for you today. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for sharing some coffee with me, or whatever you're having, and hope you have a great rest of your day, evening, morning, whatever time it is for you. Take care. Thanks for watching.